silliness. We can find silliness in just about anything we wish to seek in. So as I speak with you or communicate with you, just to understand, I speak from the heart, and these words are not just for you, they are just a part for me as well. The morning has been sort of like a roller coaster, like where they are, where the pulses of me as an individual and as the wholeness of the consciousness, and it's just that little unsettling place for me, and I be just there. But beautifully, Spirit always guides, and if we are attentive, we will find our way where we need to be. So, are you all preparing for the holiday season? Who is excited about it? Well, you know, if you have a name like Joy, there's a holiday every day. But that's the part, is to take that spirit of that everyday moment that is there with us, right? You know, we have designated beautiful days and holidays and solstices to celebrate everything, but then again, in the reality is, if we are not paying attention to this true one moment of a sense of appreciation or gratitude, or even if it's pain or sorrow or grief, it's all happening in this very moment. And to understand that aspect of, am I present with myself, is there. So the first hymn that we sang, it was just like a little spark for me to like, okay, finding myself where I am, you know, to be able to tell the story, because at the end of the day, I speak my story, but you are creating your own stories. And what do you get to tell from that story? You get to pick and choose, you know. We can always not vocalize things that we are not sure about, and we can hold on to things that are not there, but it doesn't really change anything, right? Because it still continues to be a part of the journey. And that journey, surprisingly, just doesn't stop here. And as we believe in our philosophy of spiritualism, life continues after death. That journey continues into the afterlife. And I'm pretty sure, even though you sit here on a regular basis or you are associated with that, I'm sure we all have difficulty grasping onto that, like what's happening, what consciousness is doing in the afterlife, you know, how that goes on. But that's somewhere a place of discovery, and that place of discovery is always creating curiosity, that big next aha moment is happening there. But nonetheless, when we come back to telling my story today is how I struggle on a simple basis of being present in this time, because mind goes into the past looking for things, mind goes into the future looking for things, and all I have to keep doing is, that struggle is to stay put in one space as best as possible. You know? And in every moment we're creating something. But right in that very moment, what is the genesis of that is the thought that is being created in all of us. So, if some of us that have already started to shopping for the gifts and the tokens of love for our loved ones and the family members, when you have reached for that one object, or if you have reached for that one thing that you thought is for somebody, where was your thought in that time? Did you look at the thing? Did you look at the price tag? Did you look at how it's going to impact somebody's state of self or presence? Or did you pick up an object and you were thoroughly reminded of a loved one that you just lost that would have been thrilled to have that gift this year? You know, there's so many things to understand, that life is always evolving, and that thought is that permanent thing that, you know, happens, is there. You know, it has been a long time since I've lost my parents, and they are with me when I'm in a sort of a tight spot, not in a difficult spot, but tight spot is mostly the emotional state where I am tight, and they always come to assure me that life is moving on, continue to move on. There was a time where they were with me mostly as life was evolving. However, I feel like they might be a little comforted in knowing I'm doing all right on my own, but that's still a place of comfort for me. I do feel a fritter, and I remember my mom, because me and my mom had a little food thing between us. You know, we would fight over food, and we would just play for food, and we just had a playful thing. is there, but those are things, even some simple thing as enjoying a piece of fruit, mangoes and watermelons and things like that, it just takes me back. And me and my mom are fussing over. We used to say watermelon seeds and melon seeds and dry them up, and then we would enjoy, and then we would, mess with that too, like this is yours, this is mine, we would just have this part. But even at that point, the part was what was being created in that time and space, Not all the memories are funny, and not all the memories are aha or beautiful. There are a lot of memories that are not so kind. We still get to choose to remember those too, And the part is, are we finding the same sense of depth of connection with a happy memory and the not so happy memory? If you realize and step back to that, you are able to hold on to those memories as deeply as possible, good ones and not so good ones. So the part of the here and now is what I'm choosing to create, what am I choosing to co-create within myself, let alone with somebody else that is around me. And I think a part of my journey within the philosophy of this afterlife is whatever up there is there, it's still in the future. When I will die, or when I get to go to the afterlife or into the spirit world, should I be waiting for that time to fix all these things or make myself a little bit more conscious or aware? Or should I be more firmly present in this present moment, trying to absorb things, take on things? It might not be easy for all of us to have a principle of forgiveness or kindness or compassion. But yes, we can strengthen a little at a time, that knowing that we need to understand is there, Life is always moving forward. So even though we are in this unprecedented times, I know through the television or little social media clippings, I have got to witness people flocking to the stores and just doing their thing and trying to take that stride. But in that moment of an awareness to realize life is always creating. Even if you sit on a stone still, you're still creating something at that point, The monk sitting in a sanctuary, or the nun sitting in a prayer hall, or the priest doing their thing, or whatever this is. We are still creating and co-creating regardless of where we are. And I think that's the part of a small segment of my story, is the learning part that has taken me sort of like pushing myself on the cheese grater, what I call it, cheese grater, to say, where I want to be, what am I choosing to be. The people that I'm surrounded by, I'm so blessed to have that nurturing that goes on at all the times. Are you feeling the same nurturing in your surrounding? My favorite saying over my tenure of work was, if you're not happy where you're working, or no matter where you are in the circumstance of your life, we all have a choice. And to me, my own learning came through a difficult way of understanding that, at any point in our life, we always have a choice, And the only way we can make change or create change is by deliberately going after something that we feel value with, right? And to understand that part. So, when you picked out your objects of affection for people, for your gifting of this holiday season, what are you putting into it? And it's not about the amount, or it's not about the size of anything, but that emotion that you're putting into it. And I feel like if all of us can just simply, gently recognize what we just connected with that. And I take it to this next piece of conversation, because no matter where we are, we're leaving imprints. And I feel I have heard these same words here in this hall from somebody else. We're always leaving imprints. Our spirit, our essence is always leaving an imprint. You sit here, what do you leave in these pews for the next person that might be sitting in the same spot you're sitting? You may not sit at exactly the same spot. But what imprint are you leaving there? So as a medium, or as an intuitive, or as an empath, which everybody I feel is, as you go along, what you pick up is somebody has left that imprint there. The goodness. Sometimes we go in a place of worship, yet we don't feel entirely at peace and comfortable. We're wanting to get out of there. A lot goes on in the place of the worship, etc. Is how are we leaving the imprint? So the gift that you picked, the emotions, the thought that you have attached to it, is far more valuable. So that's the part of understanding, as the person will receive, they get to embrace that emotion as well. You know, they're not just taking the object from us, but it's also the emotion that we put on it. Is there? So as we leave on, you know, that is also the part of a gentle sort of, once again, telling my story. There was one time, very significantly, I remember I was a little kid, and I didn't like my Christmas gift that I was given. And oh boy, I gave it right back to the Santa Claus at that time. I didn't realize I was a kid. I had no knowledge. I just didn't like, because I had the same gift the year before and the year before. It's time to change. Santa Claus, same gift. But anyhow, the part what I bring is with the sense of smile is because I didn't realize I was a little kid. But as I grow up now in the last several years, I'm also learning, you know, the art of giving and receiving is one thing, but there is also an art of rejection. And we all have that feeling of rejection at all times, just like at the moment of now. Somewhere in my mind, I may have dismissed something about myself. That's a bigger thing than being rejected by anybody else. How do I accept me for who I am and where I am? And that's a part of my story, because this is holiday season and I'm seeing all this, and I have been reminded, you did that many years ago. And I get to choose now to work with that thought, to work with it. It's not that I need to create healing, because whoever I need to create healing has already moved on and we've already had our own aspect of it, but the thought is still here. Just imagine how many thoughts that we are holding on to. Remember, since our cognitive awareness has strengthened, we are carrying all those thoughts with us. We may not remember, but they are there. Because if I can just simply ask, if you go into your first memory of being rejected, you would know exactly where you were. It doesn't matter where the number is, you would know where that first point of somebody dismissed you being you at that point. For me, it was a big thing. I wanted to be the best athlete in the neighborhood team so that I always get picked. So I had to push myself, because I had my first initial time. I was always the last one to be picked. Because I was like clumsy and I didn't know what I was doing. But that doesn't matter. But the point is, all these pieces always stay with us. What we get to tell as our story, then it becomes a discernment, or that loving part of what we bring from that. You know, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be just a simple thing. But to tell the story is a beautiful thing. And as I go into this following thought with that, because as a spiritualist, or as a medium, or as just a simple human being, nothing changes. The only thing that I can say is the awareness within, the consciousness within me is always on the move. You know, I am still who I am, and you are still who you are. But the consciousness and the awareness is always constantly moving and rising and allowing us to choose fear or something more. And then we get to choose that part of that story for us. And as I get to say, the part is what always, I think how I bring back myself in this present moment is with an aspect of gratitude. I always get to choose now, especially in the last few years, that wherever I am, no matter how good, bad, indifferent I'm feeling, I can always muster up the courage to say I'm thankful for where I am. You know, even if the rejection is there in the life, I can still say, you know, I'm grateful for that. There must be something in this for me to understand. You know, that courage is not to pacify myself or to say, you know, this is where it is, but to take myself into that next phase, which I really don't know. None of us knows what's happening in the next moment, but at this time I can just say the sense of gratitude. So, honestly and truthfully, how many trees are up in your homes? Who has put up the trees? Are the decorations up? Is everything up? I'm just wanting to say, you know, when you go back home, no matter what that is, bless it with a sense of gratitude and abundance and well-being and just wholesomeness, and take those little not so necessary moments and experience and still bless even those that, you know, there's a part of us that we seldom get to recognize because we want to hold on to those things, those little egos and angers, and my hurt is so much prevalent is there. So understand that part of the journey of this time regardless of what your belief system is, can be really amplified into a great sense of gratitude. Now, as I go into the closing part of the conversation, why is counting this blessing? It's not because of the holiday season. The year is closing out, and it's almost like if you are a business owner, you have to do inventory at some point. You know, like spring cleaning, you have to take inventory of things, and I feel like this is always a privilege to go into a very contemplative time. If you just use the simple sense of solstice, it's also a very powerful time to hibernate. Thoughts and desires and wants, you can allow them to sort of hibernate for a little while. Taking an inventory, counting everything that you have done and accomplished. And guess what? Within that is the genesis or the beginning of a new thought, a new desire, a new inspiration, a new way of seeing things, because the new year is going to be here and we can roll the leftover possible accomplishments into the new list of things to do and new things to create in our lives. So for me, this time is such a deeper reflective time. It has always been that I get to choose where my mind is, where I'm seeing myself. And lately it has been how I'm going to set tone to the next year and how am I pushing things forward. And the beauty that I know is the unspeakable and unshakable knowing that the spirit world, my loved ones that are passed on, and your loved ones that are passed on, and our guides and our angels and our belief system that is in place is so far more intelligent than just my own simple consciousness. So just imagine if I tune into that collective higher consciousness and higher awareness, everything and anything is possible. You know, it's just surrendering and taking myself into that aspect. So rejoice this time, be happy, keep that sense of humor, keep your stories going, and keep it real because it is your story. And there's no need to place emphasis where it doesn't belong. The present moment is the moment we all have to have this beautiful creation. And thank you for being here with me.